Good evening. This is Tom Alexander. It is Monday evening, early Monday evening on November 17th. And we have a really interesting situation setting up in the U.S. stock indices. We have Nvidia earnings. I'm going to cover Nvidia in this report because it is so important. It has been a driver of the primary index that has been the driver of the stock market for several years now, and in particular since the April low. And we are coming into Wednesday evening. Nvidia earnings are going to be announced. And in the meantime, today on Monday, the cash trade reached incredibly interesting levels. All of the primary U.S. indices that we follow, the SPX, the NDX, the Russell, the Dow, the New York Composite, the equal weight S&P, all are at critical levels. And both the upper levels and the downside levels in each of these markets is extraordinarily they're extraordinarily well defined, and they're really lined up. Something big is going to happen very soon, and that's not I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. From an auction market perspective, these markets are between important intermediate term inflection points. They're actually at inflection points now, and we're going to move sharply away from this level one way or the other. Now, the catalyst may not come until Wednesday, which could be Nvidia's earnings. And I'm going to get into Nvidia as I go through this. So let's start with each of the indices, and let me just show you these levels. Okay, we're going to start with the SPX. And this is fascinating. If you've been following my reports, and by the way, you can look at the weekend reports that I send out every week for free. Just go to alexandertrading.com, click on weekly update, weekend update. It's free. And you can see the report from this past weekend. You can see the reports for several years going back over the weekend. And you can see how consistently these levels are derived and how consistently they proved to be incredibly important levels and inflection points for market movement. Okay, so you can see here, this was a high volume node from an auction market, from a slash market profile perspective. We had this market profile, the balance area that formed. And then we broke very sharply out of it. We came back down, tested that high volume node, and then screamed higher, traded sharply lower, tested it, screamed higher again. And now here we are testing it again. Let's look at the NDX. Very, very similar market structure as you would expect. Almost identical to the SPX. Here's that high volume node. Came down, tested it here, testing it again on Friday and again today. This level is just so important. Now, these upside levels are important as well. If the indices close above today and Friday's high, if all 4 or 5 of the primary U.S. indices by Thursday's close above these levels, that portends very, very bullishly from now into the end of the year and makes it very likely we'll see new all-time highs. All right, that's the NDX. Let's take a look at the Dow. Now, the Dow went straight up and it's come straight back down. But look where it stopped. It stopped right at these prior lows. Now, I've said this before. I am an auction market trader. I derive, quote unquote, support and resistance, more specifically and more accurately, inflection points from the market itself. What do buyers and sellers, what are they doing? What have they done? I don't use magic numbers. I don't use fibs, pitchforks, whatever. I use auction market levels. And you can see it's just, and again, you can go back to the you can go to the website, alexandertrading.com, click on weekend reports, go back years, and you can see the same exact work. All right, this is the Dow. Let's go to the Russell. Now, the Russell is really in the abyss. It broke through this level. It took it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get through this level. Now, there is nothing in the Russell until we get down here. On the other hand, if the Russell were to close above Friday's high, that would be bullish. It would be bullish for the overall market. Even if the Russell doesn't make it to a new all-time high, it would be bullish for the overall market, and the Russell would likely continue to rally very strongly, at least for a period of time. Okay, let's go to let's look at the New York Composite. Now, the New York Composite, once again, we're hitting a level established by the market itself. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fifth time we've tested this level. It's clear as a bell what's going on here. All right, let's see. Let's look at the equal weight S&P. Very similar picture. It's sort of in the abyss below. There's nothing below where we traded today until you get down to about 183, 182. Now let's take a look at Nvidia. Really, really interesting chart. Okay, so Nvidia. I want you to notice this level in here. There's a bunch of volume right in here. And if you parse it out a little bit more, here's the strip, and this includes this volume in here. It includes these buying tails. This is just below this volume node. So again, this is a critical level. Now, let's look at the profile graph. Okay, this is Nvidia, and this is really an intermediate term view of the auction in Nvidia. And what I've done here, let me show you what I've done. You know, I've said this many, many times. A lot of people associate me with market profile. I've been using market profile since it was initially posited by Stottlemyre in the mid 1980s. I'm not a market profile trader. You don't want to be a market profile trader. You want to be an auction market trader. The purpose of the market profile graph, and this was Stottlemyre's original intent, was to display the footprint of the auction process and to help identify an auction market condition. And there are times when the profile graph does that extremely well, and this is one of those times. But let me show you what I've done with this chart. So if we take this and we unmerge the distribution, so what do we have here? Well, these are monthly profile units. These are monthly auctions. So the chronological structure here is of 1 month. But the auction process is an ongoing process. The auction process is always in effect in all degrees of time, all the time. So we have to be careful about looking at a market profile graph and drawing conclusions without understanding it's a constant flow. It's not just September, October, November. What's actually going on? Well, what we have here, the September, July, August, September is really all one auction beginning in late July. Now, look at the October auction. We came down and tested this volume node. Bungee jumped back higher. Look at the November auction. We came and tested the high of the October auction, and now we're working our way back down. Something else that's a little bit subtle here is, if you notice this, is how little time the market's been able to spend above about 197 in Nvidia. It's trading below that level now. So again, we have Nvidia earnings coming out after the close on Wednesday. If those earnings are perceived as positive or whatever, it doesn't really matter what the earnings are. What matters is the reaction to the earnings and then the reaction to the conference call after the earnings. That's all we care about. I don't know what the numbers are, don't care. It doesn't matter. All I care about is the reaction. And there's going to be a reaction because this is the stock that's been the driver of the stock market, in particular since the low in April. So it's going to be a really, 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 really interesting week. Let me do this. Okay, it's going to be a really, really, really interesting week. And the driver of this thing, the driver of all the indices, could be what happens after the close when Nvidia announces its earnings. You guys enjoy your evening. By the way, please like, subscribe, make comments, notification bell, all the YouTube things. Please do that. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.